Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal Podcast Roundtable 28 for Kamen Rider Reiwa, the First Generation. I am VashieV, and joining me today is...
Rai,
And Zero.
welcome to welcome to this movie, the crossover movie between Zero One and Zio.
Yeah, potentially the last uh Heisei crossover movie
I doubt it.
for for now. I mean, well, the whole reason why they made this with the Zeo thing is because they wanted to keep at least like one thread, but then like the way this movie ends, it's like we might as well never see Heisei again.
Like they clearly want to do the separation, like Heisei was with Showa, but that is just a separation and not complete solitude. Like we'll get Decade making appearances in the future. We'll get Zio making appearances in the future.
Well,
Like anniversary movies, they'll be a thing.
maybe, but the thing is, like, Decade's actor said he's done doing Rider,
All
so
right. Well, we still have Sogo.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, well, the way they ended it with like, well, did Sogo just like forget everything? So it's like, well, if he never shows up again, therefore he just lived a happy life. Or if he shows up again, it's like, well, maybe he remembered a little bit. Or only this time somebody else is fucking with time, so he recovered his memory.
He
So it's like it's so
we
perfectly
have
set up for either.
we have another Zio movie coming, and it'll probably be that
Uh,
last one.
God damn it! Why? This was a perfect end to their damn thing. Like, why do they need another
Because
one?
the Gaze Majesty movie takes place after this one.
Why?
What
That suit's
garbage that is.
horrible. That movie's trash. What
Yes,
is the
but it
Yes.
ended on a cliffhanger, setting up another movie.
God? That better be fucking Waz's movie at this point.
It's
Because if
not.
it's not, I don't.
Nope.
It's not.
Nope.
Waz is the one not getting a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
Tsukiyomi then.
most likely, or Schwartz.
I don't give a
Uh,
shit about Schwartz, man.
yeah.
Like, I'd be
No,
fine with Tsukiyomi.
but he's gonna be the villain.
Yeah, because they at the end of the Gates movie, that's what they're setting up, is Schwartz being the villain
At the
again.
end of the Gaze movie, so during the movie, Schwartz is the principal of the high school for some reason. And at the
Ah,
end of the
God
movie, it
damn it.
reveals that like he still remembers everything from the series. Like, and he
Oh,
like
what the?
and he like pulls in Ura and his time jacker buddies, and he's just
Yeah, I
like,
know.
"Hey, we're gonna go do a thing now." And it's like,
This
why
is
would they
terrible.
be evil? Their whole thing was that they
Exact-
were tricked by him.
Right. This is like literally like worst Forze. Like, this is a shittier setup of a Forze movie. Like, why? Why would you do that? That's awful. Like, the one good thing they got is they weren't evil all the time. Right? And like now they're back to being the bad guys. Like, fuck off.
That's okay, and apparently one of them the girl is dating Gates.
No, she
Don't know when
wants
that
to.
happened.
She has
But
the hots
wants
for
to-
him.
Yeah, she's madly in love with him for, no apparent reason.
That's fine. They fucking need love.
I mean,
interest
did you see him
somehow.
break his foot in that karate tournament? Or
Was
whatever.
that in this movie?
No,
No, that was
in the
that's
Gaze
the
movie,
Gates
the whole plot is set up because Gaze's opponent cheats and he breaks his toes on the mat
Damn.
and can't walk.
Well, it's pretty damaging for a writer, I guess.
No, you'd think so.
Oh,
You'd think so.
But apparently the suit's a medic because as soon as he transforms, he's fine.
Oh my god. Alright, maybe the suit heals him, but I don't know, man. At this point, like, who gives a shit? I thought this movie was the last Zio thing. I was
It's
so
not.
happy. I'm like,
No, it's unfortunately not. There's
fuck
more.
this. This
Oh.
movie was great until I learned more.
Here's the overreaching problem with their
God
finality
damn,
of
Zio.
this series. Here's the problem with the finality of this series. Is both the series and both of these movies have the same ending when it comes to Zio.
Right.
Mind wipe everybody. Then each time they all get a hold of their
Ride watches.
and get their memories back, and off we go.
Yeah, I mean that's how that works anyway, which I'm fine with. But I'm like, this movie was the perfect end, and now Zio continues to do what Zio does best and not know when to fucking end this shit.
Here's the thing: at the end of this movie, everyone resets to 0, right?
Right.
But at the end of the Gaze movie,
they all remember.
No, Gaze remembers because it was his movie.
Oh god.
Oh, and
which means it's gonna be a Tsukuyomi movie.
Waz always remembered. Waz never forgot.
Yeah, which makes sense because he doesn't forget in this one either.
Yeah, to put it in Deno terms, he's the singularity point.
Yeah, that's fair.
He remembers everything that he's experienced because he's been journaling it.
Yeah,
and at least in the Gates movie, it made the explanation for why they got their watches back, because, the end of the movie, nobody has their watches. Or end of the series, nobody has their watches. This one, they all just end up in their hand and his falls out of his pocket.
They literally just appear out of nowhere at the start of the movie.
Well, to be fair, that's sort of the time travel garbage that like most shows do. Whenever it's like, oh shit, I literally pulled out the MacGuffin out of my thing. It's like, well, there's time travel somewhere. Right, like they even do it in the show.
Right, but the Gates movie does it better. Waz gives them back their watches.
Yeah, I know. It makes way more sense.
So them remembering everything at that point and having the watches at that point makes sense. This was just dumb.
I don't give a shit because I'm like, all right, we just need an excuse to get the Zio crew in here. But like, hearing this is not their last adventure is fucking stupid. That just annoys me now. Like, all right, fine, they can have their dumbass shit as long as they don't cross over with any other writer for the time being.
Welcome to the world of Zio. That is literally everybody's thought.
It's like I don't mind their crap, but it's like this movie is such a perfect end to their shit. Like I don't want them to deal with anything else right now. Yeah. Because like they're all perfectly in character.
Yeah, like this movie ends perfectly for the Zio cast. Doing Gates fucks it all up.
Well, I mean it's Gates, so what else does he do?
Like we're not gonna go on about all our problems with the Gaze Majesty movie because we already did an hour-long podcast on that. But I do want to bring up one solid point from that, which is that Gaze became a rider in the original timeline because there was the call to action and people were in danger. And one of the biggest reasons why I don't like the Gaze Majesty movie is that in this timeline, no one's in danger. And White Waz shows up and keeps saying, like, hey, Gaze, your life is going to be in danger later on. And it's like, why? Gaze is like, well, I have no reason to be a hero. I don't know what you're talking about. And I agree with him. Like, Gaze has no reason to be a hero. There's no actual call to action. There's no one in danger.
Yeah, that's dumb.
So Pixie's in the comment. She says, yeah, never want to watch Zio after the last two movies. So much out of context. And the sad thing is you have about as much context as everybody had watching the show.
Yeah, pretty much.
To be fair,
I mean, like, you might get a little bit of the background for, like, the villains and shit, but, like, it takes forever to get there. Also, like, this movie is great because you see pretty much, like, the Zio cast being, well, I mean, maybe not at their top, but, like, 80% as good as they are, and Sogo being, like, top as good as he normally is, right?
Yeah, I will admit this is Tsukuyomi at her best.
She doesn't do anything.
Kind of. But the thing is, like, she doesn't look anything up. So I'm like, well, that's kind of not great. But besides that, like, usually she does a little more investigating. But besides that fact, like, yeah, everybody else is fine. Gates continues to just exist.
I'm meaning more in the whole fighting aspect. She's not there just to throw a rider kick.
Yeah, that's dude, honestly, I thought she wasn't even gonna henshin, and I was pretty pissed. And then she does at the end. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like, but then she doesn't fight with Valkyrie at all. And I was like, fuck you.
Do anything in this movie. Tsukuyomi didn't need to be here. Like, the one thing
Well,
she
that's not true.
does.
She does the time stop stuff, which kind of saves their ass
Yeah,
a couple
that
times.
that is the one thing she does. Uh, and I feel like she has more to contribute than that.
She
Yeah,
does
but
that,
honestly,
and
it's not the Zio Cruz movie. So I kind of let that slide. I'm like, all right, as long as they don't treat the characters terribly, I'm gonna let them not doing too much slide.
well, in defense of Tsukiyomi, she also went and spied on the president to
Okay,
get that
Oh yeah, that's a
information.
good
she
point. She
she
did do that.
gained information, but where did that go?
Well, to be fair, that's what she does in the show too. So it's like, that's fine. Um, yeah, I was more annoyed that she didn't get to have like even one scene fighting with Valkyrie because I'm like, God damn it, this is the only right. Well, it's not the only writer, but this is like the second writer movie with two female writers. Well, that's
They
not
did,
true. Tackle technically doesn't count as a writer, so like this is technically the first writer movie with two female writers,
like I will admit I'm disappointed that they
and
didn't
none
do
of
the
them
whole
died.
Sentai thing of let's team up the females together, which is a standard Sentai crossover trope. And
Right,
it
that's
would
what
have
I
been
was
great.
hoping for.
But yeah, this is what happens when Tsukiyomi's character isn't written to die. She can actually fight for a little bit.
Yeah, dude, like the most okay, she's pretty great, but like honestly, like UI is like fucking next level in this movie. Right?
Wizard in Magic Land or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
but
like
that's what I was
it's
thinking
it's a
too.
technicality. I was just
Yeah, it's a
it was the only
technicality, right?
thing I
Because
could
like
think
half the fucking
of.
world can mention that.
I
I
don't
mean,
even count that. Like I
see, my problem with that is then we count because if we count those guys, because like most of Japan can henshin, or at least, or maybe the world. The problem then becomes then we can give it to Fai's Paradise Lost because there's so many riot troopers. Some of them had to be female
Oh
also
yeah, that's
not.
true.
So I'm like, I don't count that because that's
Right, yeah,
bullshit.
no.
And then so there's
Oh,
one where I think like Tackle and Nachiko meet or something, but I'm like,
What?
that's like barely a thing. But at least they
Is
met.
that even
Here,
a
Super.
thing?
No, it's like they don't do anything. Um, but here, it's like both Tsukiyomi and you are fairly solid. On like you was pretty freaking great.
like
Like Izu's great.
Tsukiyomi, like the main thing with that came from her spying on the meeting was it pointed them to where the time error was, where that happened,
Yeah,
which was the riff at Daybreak Town.
Can we talk about that a bit more? I know normally we
yeah.
do characters first, then plot, but
No, it's fine. We can skip around. I mean, like the only thing I was also gonna say is like this movie does something really interesting where it's like there are no good guys, right? Like literally nobody's like without faults. Like Aruto's grandfather, not super nice. Um, his dad also not super nice. The villain not straight up evil. You know, like it's super interesting. Like every character has nuance.
um,
Yeah, and Pixie says like all the girls were great for once. I'm like, yes, true, right? For once. It's kind of
Um,
amazing.
it's Springtime Bonnie jumped in the comments too. She says this movie shows us that Vulcan and Valkyrie are strong against Zero One, which is accurate.
Yeah,
And
that's true because
Fu,
they were meant to hunt Zero One down.
right, and Fu more specifically, I feel because like the show itself did a good job of it because they consistently clashed to start with, so it did show that very well. Um,
Yeah, I mean, like the only reason Zero One wins is because he has so many upgrades. In base
also,
form, like he's not that strong compared to
at
them.
this point in the series, Aruto has the least combat experience of the three of them. So if the two of them actually had tried ganging up on him, they would have won and he would have been forced to retreat.
right.
Yeah, I mean, especially in this timeline.
Uh, so so the change in history comes from the arc when the launch fails in the actual timeline and the arc and like Daybreak Town explodes. But the revised history is that the arc successfully launches and takes over the world. Why was it so hard for Aruto to figure that out? I'm guessing this takes place before they go to Daybreak Town and see the explosion records.
I think that's the case. I don't necessarily know what episodes this takes place between.
Well, I mean, like Thouser hasn't shown up, so they haven't really done any of the Daybreak. Plus, Jin's alive,
Right.
so
Well,
this
like,
is pretty
they-
early on. Like maybe episode 12-ish or 15, something. Like it's really early
like
in the show.
like they went to Daybreak Town and learned about that stuff, and then there was a few more episodes before like Hirobi got owned and stuff.
Right, because that's when that's right before Hirobi henshins for the first time.
And also Hirobi and Jin being
Right.
alive doesn't matter in a revised history.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, you have to remember how early this is because like that you get a tease for Thouser at the end, which means like it's at least an episode or two before that guy shows up. Plus, like, guy is not even in this, and you know how involved he was in the actual event. So this is like really early on in the show.
See, I'm
Oh, actually,
I'm
you know what?
checking to see if
I-
continuity has been updated for it.
I just realized the answer to my own question, which is that Aruto did realize like the riots at Daybreak Town had to do with the shift. He just couldn't pinpoint the actual change, which was the arc, whether or
Right.
not it launched. Yeah. Okay. That I just figured out the answer to my own question.
Yeah, because he
Um,
takes them there, but he doesn't know where the hell
He
to
doesn't
go.
know
So-
where there to take them.
This, as per TV Nihon, this takes place between episode 15 and 16,
Okay.
which would be literally right before Guy shows up, because episode 16 is This Is the Dawn of Zaya. So yeah, this would be after he learned about Daybreak Town.
Yeah, anyway, so the point is like he knew but he didn't know exactly what was going on, which is fair because like it's a fucking giant ass town. Plus he was a kid, right? Like even if he tries to remember, like he wouldn't have that much knowledge.
I feel like with how directly related his family is to that event, he would have learned more than nothing after becoming CEO.
Yeah, maybe, but the point there remains is like how much does he even know about his grandfather or like his dad?
That's okay. That is another point. I was super disappointed that Aruto did not meet his grandfather at all.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
true.
that-
But the thing is like his grandfather turns out to be not a nice dude. He's just a businessman.
And in a movie where Aruto's memories get wiped anyways.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
good point.
Right, like this was just bad when it comes to how they handled the timeline and all that. Because yeah, there's no reason why he couldn't have met his dad, and like even in this one, it's like yeah, his grandfather. I'm sorry. While his grandfather wasn't exactly the best guy, it's like he was still doing things with the best intentions, which is why once he noticed that the assistant was at that point went, yeah, this seems problematic. We might want to look into this. And then shit starts to go south. And then he goes, no, you guys need to get to safety because the employees are the company. So
Right.
he's not as bad as it could come across.
Yeah, like
He's just-
that's what I'm
the way
saying. It's
they-
like
I think the biggest issue on it is how they kind of ran it through. Is he kind of plays it off like, oh, he's just brushing that question off of basically,
yeah.
hey, the human gears are tools, have fun.
Right. I think the issue is in the show they like mythologize him and being like, oh, he was this amazing human being, right? And then in the movie, you see, it's like he was an okay dude, but he was still like a business dude. So
Right.
like at the end of the day, he was gonna do what's best for his company, which didn't like he kind of did some questionable shit, which this movie kind of shows like literally everyone though, right? Like
He
everyone Zio meets, like yeah, his dad not super great or questionable, like his grandfather also questionable. Like the only people who get like good shit are actually like the vice president and his subordinate, who are actually really good characters in this movie, or at least
Right.
really good supporting characters.
Like
So it's like, oh,
it's
I
one of
guess
those
this is
like
what they used to be with the previous president was
yeah,
around.
like this like everything about those two characters specifically, like if they had gone through all obviously what they did for this timeline, this is how they'd be. But instead, they got a dead president and him going, "No, screw you, I'm taking over. Why are you putting this no-name kid? No, that no. So I'm going to be an asshole to that guy." It basically that ended up being his character for the most part. But
Yeah, I
you
mean,
can
it also
also with
showed that they used to care about the company when the old president was around, because like that would
like
explain like how they could continue to be vice president, because like otherwise like nobody would like these assholes.
right. Um, but when you but through the main timeline, like if you have to look objectively at it, which is very hard to do with shows like this. If you look at it objectively, you can basically say, well, he's only being an ass to try to teach Aruto what he needs to do for the job he has. Not so much of I'm being a dick because I want your job. It's I'm being a dick because you can lose your job if you don't do this stuff.
See, I would be
you
fine with that if
are
they actually kind of portrayed it in the show like
you
that,
are
but there's
giving
never any
him
hints.
too much credit because behind Arto's back he kept going like, "Oh man, Arto's gonna get dethroned super hard and it'll be mine for the taking."
Right. Which I understand that. Like there are aspects that counteract all of that. But I feel by the end of it, he was doing it with the good intentions. It may have started out as, no, screw this guy, I'm taking over, let's have fun watching this,
The
to, because even in the end, when they did that, the last vote, even he went, yeah, no, we're going to keep this guy as the president.
Yeah, I agree. Like honestly, this the characterization for all the characters in this movie is probably them at their best, right? Which is honestly kind of interesting for being like a summer movie. But then again, like the Heisei generations, and I guess this is Reiwa generation movies, are actually like really fucking solid. And this is probably like one of the best ones. Like I don't know if this is number one or maybe number two, but like this is really solid. So like yeah, everybody is actually really good character wise.
in the bonus scene at the end of the vice president wanting a rider belt,
Oh dude,
like
that was so good. So
it,
good. Like this movie has so many references to like old school writer and stuff. Like especially like Ichigo, because like all the references that his dad throws out or his
Right.
robot
Well,
dad, and then
his
like the vice president.
Kamen Rider Ichigata is 100% a nod to Kamen Rider Ichigo
Yeah,
in the aspect of both name, the couple of poses he does,
I mean the
the
suit, and he's
the red
walking around
scarf
with the
that
white
appears
boots and everything.
and the red scarf that appears. Yeah, he's
Oh yeah,
very much a hey, Kamen Rider One, have fun.
yeah. I
and
also like how the villains like thing is like, hey, you writers have polluted history because like this is what writers should have been, which is monsters.
Okay, so I want to get into that real quick
uh,
because
Here
that
we go.
can I just say one more thing first?
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Ichigata's driver is the Cyclone driver.
yes,
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
it's because when he does the thing, it does the Cyclone Rise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a
It's
Cyclone
freaking
Rise there,
great.
so
Like
um,
honestly, like all the drivers and all the suits look so nice in this damn movie. Like it's kind of amazing.
so this is going to gather into a little bit of Zeo One for this. Can we
Did you
point out
say
that this is the
Zeo
first
one?
writer, or
Zero.
Shut up,
Zero.
Shut up. Technically, this movie is ZO1, hush.
Yeah, technically it is.
So this is the first villain we've had with this whole let's take over the timelines who actually had the best understanding of Toku.
Oh yeah, that's
Through all
true.
of the Timejackers and Quartzer and all that. So
okay, what about that one Timejacker that we're like, holy shit, this is the fourth Timejacker. They're actually
Tid?
good.
So Tid would be like Finis from this movie is probably the best Timejacker. Tid is second best.
yes, because Tid had the same plan, just started at the wrong spot. Tid's plan started at basically the same plan started at Kuga.
Right. Plan was, hey, make all the riders not exist and be the only one with rider powers. Then the riders can't stop me.
Which works in the aspect of with all this. And then you get Finis, whose entire theory is no, riders were supposed to be evil. Y'all screwed all up. Which is accurate. That is accurate history.
Right.
Because yes, riders were supposed to be evil.
Rider 1 was created by Shocker.
I mean, like most of the writers, I mean, they even say in the movie, it's like, yeah, there's no difference between rider powers and the villain's powers because
Which
like
is
that's
true.
the whole thing.
Like every rider uses the same powers as the villains they're fighting.
Yeah, actually.
There might be some exceptions, but like I cannot think of any.
Yeah, Agito flat out uses the unknown's powers.
Yeah, God's power.
Yeah.
Well, God's rival, but it's same thing.
Celestial beings, okay?
Yeah.
I'm still calling him Satan. I don't care.
Well, yeah, he's a
I know
demon
God's
basically. He's fighting angels. He's a demon. Pixie's like it's a good movie if you ignore context and how time works. I'm not sure about context, but definitely like
we ripped
whenever
time travel in Zio enough.
Yeah, like we spent an entire series trying to figure out how the fuck Zio's time travel works, and every single time they added something new to fuck it up.
Remember that time there were 2 Zios?
Oh Jesus! Yes, I do remember.
Because that's not.
That was actually an interesting one.
Remember that point where Zio was running around to get power so he could fight himself in the future?
Yeah, that went nowhere.
Wait, wasn't that the whole series?
Yes, that's not how time travel works.
Right. Or does it?
Either become him or don't. Those are the two options. You don't get a third.
Right. Like, there's so many fucking moments. It's ridiculous.
But what were we talking about?
That show's a mess.
Oh, we're talking about how riders are no different from the monsters they fight.
It's just their decisions to use the power for good or not. Which ultimately, that's very much a Showa trope that didn't really end. They just kind of nixed the whole starting out evil thing.
Oh,
basically...
For most, unless you're a secondary writer.
I thought of
well, originally it used to be you were created by the evil organization, except for like some riders aren't. But like the whole thing of like, your powers are the same power set as the villains has always kind of been the same.
Hibiki is the exception.
Hibiki is like the exception
because Hibiki was not supposed to be a rider series.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, some of the other ones is like they didn't get their powers from the villains. Like Jay doesn't really have the same powers as the villains. It's just like monsters show up and then like the Earth basically powers up Jay to fight them. So like Hibiki and Jay are kind of like the exception, but like most other shows, there's like either they get the powers or the drivers directly from the villains, or somebody takes the villain's powers and makes them a rider to fight it.
I apologize to everybody. Pixie broke me.
That gif.
That is along with that comment. Those two together.
Let's break the time travel rules, and then it's a gif of Waz and Gaze, and like Waz slaps Gaze on the chest, and then Gaze gives Waz like a slap on the chest or like on the arm.
As they're walking off
Yeah,
together.
I
like,
get it. They're
yeah,
partners
that
in
fucking
time
broke-
crime, I guess.
That fucking broke
Um,
me.
Yeah, it's so good. The thing is, like, Waz is always so fucking good. Like, even though he barely does anything in this movie. Also, I guess like they ran out of CGI budget for his scarf, so he actually has to use the scarf to fight now. Which,
That
which is
hands down was one of the best scenes in the movie.
Just
Yeah.
dragging a Magir by the throat across the ground. Like,
dude.
I'm sure
God.
that the suit actor was like on a board with wheels or something, but boy, do I feel bad for them.
Yeah. The other thing too is like, holy shit, this movie is fucking vicious. Like all the attacks and stuff are like, no shit, this could literally be happening. Right? Like when the fucking like Humagi are attacking the school, like that's intense. When like the base raid happens, that's fucking intense.
That's right.
Also like Arto like straight up jumps into that van. That's not even a stunt guy. I was like, holy shit, that's actually impressive.
And like when they're being attacked in the school, and one of them is climbing through the window, and Sogo like closes the window on him.
Yeah, dude, like that school bit is like insane because I'm like, holy shit, Ryder actually got a budget for this movie.
So, I will point out one thing with this movie, that they did a good job of showing you the format, but disguising it in a way that it doesn't look like a format.
Yeah, that's true.
When they Fua and Yua jump out of the top
Jump
of
off the roof, yeah.
hideout, and it pans out, and the mat's clearly visible, and that's what they're landing on for safety. And I'm like,
but I'm like,
the way they draped it and framed it, it just looks like they're falling onto like
a tent
block of supplies or something.
I don't know if I noticed that.
Yeah,
I was okay with it just being a mat too, because I'm like, well, they probably know they're gonna get raided, so if they need an escape route, it's better that than fucking like a ladder or some shit.
Right, like this is, I think, one of the few times where that type of thing has been visible during a stunt scene in these shows, because usually they do a very good job of like the camera tricks to hide it.
Dude, you know what's also really impressive? Like when Sogo's riding a bike in the beginning.
Oh, he was actually riding it for a second.
Yeah, for a second. Like, and then I'm like, okay, is that actually him, or are they like being real smart the way they cut? Because like every time it like cut to a close up, it's him. So I'm like, okay, he might actually be riding the bike, or it could be a stuntman, but they're cutting it really fucking well.
Other thing that it could have been is they could have had it hooked to a trailer to where the back of the bike is on the ground.
Oh, that's true.
But the front wheel is still on the thing, or like still on the trailer, so it's still
that could
towed.
work.
But they shot it in a way to where you can't tell, and it mixes the reality and whatnot to where it looks like he's really riding the bike. Because I feel at this point they still haven't given the riders the right to ride the bikes anymore, or yet. I don't think they've given that back.
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, like Sento straight up got his bike license to ride his bike, and they wouldn't let him do it.
They wouldn't let him. It's like, and there's still the points where he's on the bike and it's the black.
The black visor, yeah, I saw that too.
But the double they have for him is like the perfect build and size and everything.
Like,
so
the cinematography in this movie is astounding. Like, even the CGI, Rising Hopper popping out of the ground, and then at the end of the movie, like, when it drops down, and it's just, like, destroying the Coliseum because it's hopping twice as much as it normally does.
You've got that. You've got the attention to detail when Hirobi loses his hat, to his hair being all out and frizzled, the way it is in the show when he loses his bandana before he gets his shit wrecked, and it's all poofy and whatnot. It's like the attention to the detail in this movie is superb.
Like, Hirobi and Jin with the Humagear like headphones is weird, but Jin's outfit this movie is like a chef's kiss.
Oh yes, that mobster outfit. Like I
Oh, you
fucking
mean like the
love that
freaking like
outfit.
urban cowboy shit that he's got going on? That's freaking great. Um,
Like
Honestly, like I like Hirobi because like it's so different because he just looks like a regular person now, whereas in the show he always just looks like a walking like here's the villain. Right?
he
Where in
looks
this timeline he's just a dude. And I'm
to
like,
me
oh,
he
that's interesting.
to me he looks like what Edgy would have looked like if he was a bad guy, but still
Oh,
homeless
that's a good point. That's a good point.
because
Yeah, I
he
can
looks like
see
he
that.
has all of his stuff with him. Um, Jin's outfit to me is still like superb, and the fact it's that Jin, that I'm 5 years old Jin, which is my favorite Jin. Like I like Jin as he is now in the show, the adult Jin,
The
but
cleaned up
childlike
super
Jin was
well.
so
Yeah.
much fun. But having him in that adult-like outfit was a great dichotomy for it
And I love
because it shows physically what could be, but still retains what he is.
and like the characterization of them in this movie, where Hirobi is still his stoic, like as the arc commands, personality, but Jin is just like, I'm in it
I'm here to
for
have
the
fun.
action.
I'm here to have fun. Like they nailed everything about this movie in that aspect.
I think my favorite movie with the two of them was when Gaze shows up in his time machine, and while Sogo like jumped out of his to help Aruto, Gaze is just like, "Fuck that! I brought the robot. I'm using it."
That's so good too.
So,
Honestly, they're like, who the hell is this? I don't know, man. Just get the hell out of here. He's buying us time. I love how like literally all the zero one characters are like, who the fuck are these guys?
it's right,
It's
and
so
then
good.
peace out after it.
Yeah, peace out. Yeah,
So
Jin being so happy-go-lucky is fucking great. Also, like one moment. So this, it's written by the person who wrote Yua Takahashi, and it's directed by uh, Teruka Sugahara. So basically, they've both worked on Zero One. So that explains why this has such a Zero One feel. It's because the main writer for Zero One, I'm thinking, and like
that
this
also
director has
is
done at
terrible.
least Zio and Zero One, 2 episodes of Zio, 6 episodes of Zero One, at least.
Which
So like
explains
yeah,
why this very much feels like a Zero One movie with a Zio MacGuffin.
yeah, like they know what the hell they're doing, which is
Um,
great.
so there's a comment from Springtime Bonnie that says technically Zio is no longer canon due to Sogo resetting his timeline.
Resetting timeline, yeah.
Here's the problem with that is literally that happened 3 times now.
Also, explain that to Schwartz.
So that doesn't
Oh,
work.
you mean Narataki?
No.
No,
I
he's not
wish.
Narataki now. Oh god.
No, I wish he was Narutaki. That would have been that still would have been the best.
Like that joke. That joke isn't funny anymore because Schwartz made it not
they won't
What we
funny.
wish
explain
for. It's because now it's what we wish for.
That's just sad, man. Like if you're bringing him back, just fucking make him Narataki. It's the perfect thing.
But I mean, the entire timeline of Sogo of Zio literally is 100% fucked now because of how the end of Zio takes place. So
what happened?
And the fact that
what happened in Overquartzer?
So in Overquartzer, detail that Vash and I misunderstood is that another Tokiwa Sogo shows up and claims to be Omazio. Vashi and I were confused about that. What we didn't understand was that is a future version of Sogo from the timeline where he does become Omazio. And he was using his high school self as a decoy so that when all the time travelers were coming from the future, like, we gotta stop Omazio, so they would target him instead of the one actually, like, pursuing that path. And then he's like, alright, I'm ready to wreck some shit now. Hey, younger self, go eat shit.
and give me all the powers you collected for me.
God damn,
And-
that's actually kind of an interesting plot.
And it is that version of Sogo that Waz is actually working for.
Oh shit, nice.
Until
That's
he
cool.
decides he wants to work for,
The
this
new
version
one?
of Sogo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, rider allegiances don't mean shit.
Well, it's not even that. It's like you're a main character. You can't, like, if you want to live, you can't vote on the new guy, right? like there's no way it's like, oh right, beloved character, like yeah, betray everyone now. It's like that's not gonna happen. You're either gonna die in this movie or you're gonna switch sides.
So there's one good thing that came out of Overquartzer, and it's at the end during the climax when Sogo has to face himself and he's losing, and Omazio pulls him into the future to tell him like, hey, listen, you're me. You don't let anyone tell you what to do, including you. Go kick your ass.
Okay, so is like future like or older Sogo played by a different actor, or is it?
Yes,
just the
it's a
same
different actor. I don't know who it
okay.
is. You'd have to look it up.
But yeah, that's fucking. I love how many levels of nonsense the Zio plot is. Like, fuck the timelines, like future, past, alternate history, all just like coming in. Like, hey, no, I'm the guy. It's like, no, I'm the guy. No, you know what? Fuck it, kick that guy's ass. But I'm like, he's you. Timeline. Fuck that. Just do it.
So
Fuck
here's
that.
the
I'm an
ultimate
asshole.
problem. Here's where I will accept Springtime Bonnie's comment, but also negate it at the same time. The end of Zio, the series, ends with Sugo resetting time to before anything happened in the show. But he brought, for some reason, all the time jackers, all the bad people, and gates.
Right. We
to
don't
this
know
timeline.
what time period
So-
Aura and are from, but we know for sure that Tsukuyomi, Gaze, and Schwartz are from the future.
So he literally stuck them all here before the start of the show, and then now we're playing it forward. It's straight stated by Wasp that this will still happen. This is an inevitability.
Sogo will become the Demon King. It's a matter
Period.
of how.
And how.
I
So
mean, to be honest, like
yes,
this movie,
the
this movie
show.
kinda... Sorry, go ahead. Josh.
Just to finish the comment. So technically, yes, the show itself is no longer canon to Zio because they keep wiping their memories. But every time they get their watches back, they get their memories back, which makes the show canon. And goddamn, Zio's time travel sucks.
To plug this back into the Gaze Majesty movie, the plot of that movie is White Waz shows up and tells Gaze, like, hey, Sogo is going to become the Demon King, so you need to become the savior and fight him. And Gaze goes, no, that's stupid. Everything you just said is stupid.
Which is exactly what happened in that plot line in the show.
Yep. This is insane.
Zio's timeline is a train wreck.
Yeah, I mean, like the only good thing I can say about that.
Train wrecks.
Sorry, did you say something, Vashi?
I said yes. Zio's timeline is a train wreck. Even worse than when Deno's train wrecks.
Oh god, Deno's train wrecks only just fuck up the past, and writers can fix it. Zio can't even fix his own timeline. But the one good thing about this movie is like, yeah, the villain's going like, writers are evil and all that, and they're created to be evil from the evil power, and so it goes like, you know what, fuck that, we do what we want. And then he goes like, yeah, I'm gonna become the Demon King and be evil. Or no, writers are evil. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna become the Demon King.
Right,
Okay.
that is...
But like the kindest Demon King and kick your ass.
That was Zio's best moment in all of his appearances, right there. You don't understand Rider history. Riders were meant to be evil. You don't understand me. I'm going to become king. Demon King.
Right, and like this is one of those points where we were watching Zio, where we kept going, we don't think you know what that word means. That word doesn't mean what you think it means.
In that moment, I felt like he did.
Oh, in that moment, he knew exactly what it meant. But
yeah, like in this movie, Sogo seems the most like he knows his character. Like this is the best Sogo character I've ever seen. Like it's that thing where like it took a couple movies to get really good. as a character, and like I think this is Sogo's moment where it's like, yeah, this version of Sogo that's in this movie is like the best version of Sogo. He's like he's kind of a smartass a little bit, but he's like forgiving enough, and he knows enough about the time travel shit, and he can kind of use his powers willy nilly. And he's also
So,
kind of doing the Demon King thing, but he's doing it in like a writer way. So like he's the perfect version of that character in this movie. But go ahead.
so like the whole Demon King thing, that whole stems from his admiration of Nobunaga Oda, who was the Demon King.
Oh,
No,
oh
kind
no,
of, but
oh
yeah.
no.
I mean, I'm not. To save you, Rye, we're not going to discuss what happens in the show. We're not going to discuss that.
Fuck.
We're not going to discuss that.
I had
We're going to
forgot
discuss.
all about that.
We're going to discuss reality, like
Yes,
actual
the real
world
Nobunaga
history.
who
real
united
Nobunaga.
Japan through whatever means necessary.
Yeah, pretty
Now,
much.
He was known as a Demon King
Yep.
to his enemies
Well, kind of. But
because
yeah,
he
you're
was
right.
brutal and vicious to his enemies. Like there was no quarter. Fuck you. That's the end of it. But when it came
Well,
to
I mean, he
his people,
was like
yes.
ruthless to unify Japan. Right?
Yes.
So,
But to the people that joined him, he
He
was
was
not
okay.
ruthless. He was kind to the people. He took care of his people. It's why he was able to do what he did. But along with the ruthlessness, because if he wasn't kind, people wouldn't have followed him. So that's the mentality.
well, which reality Pixie says? The one where Nobunaga gets revived by the Kagami Foundation, and he almost takes over the Kagami Foundation.
Or
It's the worst O's
version-
movie. That
or-
one.
or the version where Nobunaga just wants to go hit on a chick all day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the worst
No,
O's
no,
movie.
No. That's the
that's the Zero One
Overquarter
episode.
movie.
Yeah, that's the Overquarter movie. Nobunaga wants to just go on a date with a Dutch girl.
Nobunaga is an absolute
Oh,
joke.
again?
Yeah, no.
So basically, that's sort of a thing in the O's movie too. But I'm like, I guess it's kind of referencing some like doomed romance or something.
No. So
That's-
the whole point is that Nobunaga is known throughout history as the Demon King, but when
Yeah.
Sogo meets him, he's a guy. He's just a dude, and so the whole point is for Sogo to learn that, like, hey, having the title of Demon King doesn't actually mean shit.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you
Yeah.
actually have to be a piece of shit.
Right, that's fair.
So that's acceptable for him using the whole "I'm going to be the Demon King" because he's not meaning it as he's meaning it the way he intends it. Of no, I'm going to take care of my people and I'm going to fuck your shit up. Have fun. And especially at the end of his scene in this movie where he does it, it's perfectly that. Of no, I'm going to take care of these guys, but you're fucked. Have fun. And also, can we point out the fact that the titular characters didn't really do much with the main protagonist of the movie, and I'm not counting Finis.
Wait, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
that's a good point.
I am counting. So the main antagonist of this movie, again,
Ichigata.
excluding Finis.
Yeah,
No,
like another.
Oh, Will?
no, another Zio.
Yeah,
Oh.
another.
He
Oh.
was the problem. Ichigata was let's teach my son a fucking lesson.
Right,
So,
and so that's good because like
which I get,
it,
and
it,
it's
it's
fantastic.
different. Yeah,
It-
because
it-
I'm like, we have 7 writers in this fucking movie.
So, I guess I proved Vashie's point by the fact that I forgot another Zero One was even in this movie.
I mean, to be
yes,
fair, he's
yes and
interesting
no.
because he's not just a straight up villain.
Oh,
Like,
he's a
he's-
really good
he's the
character. It's
antagonist.
just
He is the product.
he's the least of your concerns by the end of the movie.
Right, because of everything else going on. But the point I want to point out is like this is the first movie where the quote unquote main antagonist, which was another Zero One, is wrecked by somebody other than the main writers.
So
They were
Yeah,
wrecked by
that's true.
Zero
For like a summer movie, yeah, that's pretty fucking rare.
because they put in, but
So-
only because they put in the let's teach Aruto a lesson by having him face his dad, and
Yeah.
having zero base fitness.
Here's
Yeah.
why I like how they did this, though, is because they had another Zero One be defeated by uh, Valkyrie and
Valkyrie and
Vulcan. And
Vulcan. Yep.
now you could look at it like, well, he's the Another Rider for Zero One, and he's a Human Gear, so that's normal, right? Wrong. He's an Another Rider. He's a Zeo villain. That is who they are defeating. And then you have the Zeo Riders defeating Hirobi and Jin, the Zero One villains. So
Like-
that is how they handled that.
Like everything was, and this wasn't me complaining about it. I fucking love this because it's very unique for how they dealt with this. Because usually it's either we all team up to face the boss, or we take out our own enemies. They usually don't
Yeah.
cross.
Like
cross-
like Generations.
uh,
Yeah, like Generations Final and stuff. Yeah, they pretty much like all split off and fight their own villains. I mean, like that movie is great, but that's kind of not super great.
so
But
like
yeah,
this,
in this it's great because like yeah, we're all writers. We're here to beat the villains. Like it doesn't fucking matter whose villains they are.
Right.
Just
It
beat
doesn't matter
Right.
who you're working for. You're our enemy.
right, and it works beautifully with this movie.
We'll take you down no matter who you are.
Like
Right.
even with Sogo just being the MacGuffin to let this movie even happen in the first place.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
He had amazing fucking things. The biggest issue I had with this entire movie, and this is a personal thing, and I talked about it with you a little bit, Decade, is the opening point to this movie that Woz gives them is literally the opening plot to fucking Decade.
Yep.
Oh shit, the worlds are merging again.
Right. And then it turns into fucking Faiza's movie of Paradise Lost.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like,
I had
oh.
that thought too, where it was like Paradise Lost for a little bit.
Yeah, so it's literally like the first 2 episodes a decade, and then like Faiza's movie, right? So it's like, what the hell? But this works really fucking well in this movie
And
because I think they were smart enough to realize which characters would have emotional arcs to fight, like Zio fighting a time jacker and talking about like, hey, writers should be monsters. Like, no, writers use the powers of monsters to make our own reality, right? Like, really good thematically. And then you have like Arto and his dad fighting it out, where you figure out that he wasn't exactly the nicest person that you thought, and like his ideals might have been a little naive because it's an AI. Maybe they interpreted it wrong, and then him realizing like, no, he should go back to believing in making a better future, but he has to be strong enough to make that future. Like that's really good. Then you have like the fucking Zeo Riders basically winning their war of resistance that they couldn't win in their timeline, right? And then like you see like Snipe and Valkyrie, or not Snipe, Vulcan and Valkyrie freaking beat up Zero One, which is what they were designed to do, but like they didn't have to beat their friend. So I'm like, that's fucking great, man. The way that they wrote everything.
I especially like the detail where Sogo becomes Grand Zeo, and so the images of all the past riders appear, and Arto's just like, who are those?
Yeah, I wish it was the full henshin, so at least he could have gotten.
Oh yeah, no, I was
disappointed.
I was disappointed he asked that question and didn't get the full henshin.
Where it just spouts off everybody's name.
Yeah, I mean, at least like he could see them. He only got to see them for like 2 seconds, and then boom, they're gone, right? Which was kind of sad.
Like that was a great addition. Like, and very something that Aruto would do. Wait, who are these guys? Oh wait, they're gone. Oh, they're sticking to you. Hey, that's cool. It was one of those points where I'm like, you are a little ADHD squirrel, dude.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like you've never seen any other writers, and now you just see an army of
You just
riders
saw
show up. Like, I'd be
20 of
pretty
them.
fucking right. Like, that's insane. Also, I love that moment where they're like launching finishers, and then you see the monster cut up, and then you just see it get hit by like 5 energy blasts, and then you look up, and it's like, oh right, it's just the other riders just launching their rider kick, and then they switch to different riders, and they
Right?
launch their rider kicks. I'm like, oh shit, that's such a good moment. Yeah,
Like
that was
that's
fucking
the
unique. Like
best thing.
this movie is super unique in how it does its fights.
So,
So we got something, two things that were very unique to this. One for Zio and one for Zero One. First up, I want to talk about is the Zio point. Um, why didn't Waz and Gates have to be henchmen for Trinity? That's
Uh,
new.
They don't have to be. They don't have to be.
They've always been. That's the thing. Is
No,
like that's they have
uh,
always been henchmen when he's used Trinity.
well, they were
Kinda,
already
but-
henshin because they were already in a fight, but this was Sogo going into it from base form, and they were just civilians, so they got to say henshin alongside him.
Yeah, that was really odd. It was awesome. Don't get me wrong. I loved it, but it was one of those like we've never done this before. Why did we never do this before? This is
no, I
great.
think they do when they go in the future.
I honestly don't
When they're
remember.
fighting Amazia, they do. I think they do that one time only, where they're just
If-
giving the speech and then they just henshin from base form. I mean, like not even
if-
base form, just human to Trinity.
If that happened, I missed it, and I apologize if I missed it.
Yeah, it might have happened, but I'm
that
not
hands
100%.
That hands down would have been the best thing of Zio. And I'm specifically saying Zio, not Decade Season 2.
Okay.
And then the other thing we got is is the thing that changes everything we have watched about Zero One. And that is the speech by Izu.
Oh, right, we haven't talked about Izu yet.
No, we have not.
Save the
That
best for
changes
last.
everything in the show. That changes the entire show.
God, so there are two people who remember the events of this movie. Izu, who remembers it because of Satellite Zaya.
And Sogo for the same reason.
No, Sogo doesn't remember.
Or not Sogo, Aruto.
Nope.
Because that's
Aruto.
not let the way the movie ends is Sogo specifically says you and Izu are the only two who remember anything because of Satellite Zaya. And then he proceeds to go, I'm going to hit you in the head until you forget.
See, and I believe that
And
that
Aruto
worked.
goes, right, I do too. I'm holding to that. But I was getting the explanation of that. Both of them remembered because of Satellite Zaya. And then, Zio hit him in the head one too many times. Which, again, explains a lot about his character.
But yeah, no,
But-
Satellite Zaya and Izu are the only two who remember.
Which is important. Because earlier in the movie, there's a point where Aruto shows up to the whatever the hell auditorium meeting, board meeting, or whatever that was for. To go, basically, no, kiss my ass, I'm 01.
Oh, right.
Which is
the
basically his entire
the
speech. Oh,
stockholders
fuck you, I'm
meeting?
01. And we need to work. We humans and Human Gear need to work together. That is my dream. And then Izu has her best moment. I'm sorry, her greatest moment. Izu with emotion is the greatest thing ever.
She is pretty great.
And she basically goes, my dream is to basically help you fulfill your dream and to always be by your side. And she has this she has reached sentience
Yeah, at this point, she has.
at this point. And then
Which is weird because it takes like way longer in the damn show.
and then we get all through this. The movie ends. Sogo hits Aruto one too many times. He forgets, but Izu still remembers it all. Which means everything we've seen from that point, or from where this movie takes place and resets, everybody, Izu remembers it and is still sentient.
Right. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of weird that Satellite Zaya is able to detect weird shit like time differences and all that. So it's kind of overpowered to begin with, but like, yeah, it's weird that like because Izu in the show, or at least as far as we've seen, doesn't hit singularity until the Jin episode, right? When he shows back up for the second time.
So Pixie says, so many problems with this part. But the time was reset to before any of the movie happened, so no one should remember it because it didn't happen.
Yeah, except the satellite can do weird magic shit. So
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, CEO
writer
bullshit.
bullshit. Writer bullshit. Okay, here's my conclusion to why that's true. Zio's involved, therefore nothing relating to time travel is gonna be clean.
Yeah,
Like,
Zio's involved. There are no rules.
Like Deno's involved, shit's gonna get fucked up, but at least it'll be resolved. Zio's involved, shit's gonna get fucked up, and it's not gonna be clean.
Yeah, something's gonna go wrong with it, and in this case, what went wrong is Izu remembers it all.
Yeah,
Because
Pixie's right though. Like it doesn't fit 01.
right, it doesn't, because it changes the way things are now, because we have Izu from that point to now where she's confused as to things he says, things he does, and she's questioning it on her journey to sentience.
Okay.
That is
I mean, technically, you can write one way around it, and it's like, okay, it's evil Izu, and she hit singularity. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But it's like, if you really fucking wanted to, you can spin it as that.
Right, and which hopefully I'd much rather just stay regular Izu, and she's just hiding the fact that she's reached singularity, blah blah blah. But it ultimately ends up affecting the show in the aspect of if she remembers all this, she's still sentient, and now she's bullshitting Naruto.
This is just one of those continuity errors that you have to take with a grain of salt, like how
Mighty
Brothers Double X showed up before its debut.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Pixie, summer movies tend to do that because they want to have like really dramatic endings. They want really dramatic endings, and what happens is they tend to like overplay their hand. So it's like, oh shit, this really emotional thing happened because it's the movie, so it has to be like super impactful. And then they're like, oh shit, we have a show to do.
Yeah,
right.
So it's why we end up considering a lot of pretty much all of the movies that happen to be non-canon, because you have to, because things can happen in a movie. Like the X8 movie is one of the biggest problems with it, because there are things in the movie that are absolutely canon in the X8 movie.
Oh yeah.
Because
Peridot's backstory.
The fact that they bring in Peridot running around with the Dr. Pac-Man helmet in the show.
Oh god, yeah, it's true.
But then you also have the Mighty Brothers debut.
Yeah.
And then the debut in the show. I'm like, there are things that don't add up. And this is always the problem.
The way I take it, it's like you have to kind of take it like a Resurrection F from Dragon Ball Z, where it's like, okay, yeah, this sort of happened, but like, unless the show tells you this is how it happened, the movies are kind of like the side adventure that happened, but they're not like 100% canon.
Right.
Because ultimately, it's whatever the fuck the show says happened is what happened. So if it contradicts the movie, guess what? That part of the movie is wrong. You just rewrite it in your own head.
So I think with Izu's case, we can justify it a little bit by arguing that she's a robot. She might still have the physical records of those events, but she did not experience them in this timeline. It is just her watching a video record of it.
Right, like she didn't hit singularity, but she has the data from it. Or
and
like
so that's why she looks at
Naruto
with admiration at the end.
Right. Like, it gives a good
she does that in the show, too, so... Yeah.
It was heavily emphasized there, though, because it was her remembering how he saved her.
Yeah. But yeah, they can be easily justified as, oh, here's this thing that happened. I don't remember it, so I didn't experience it, but I have a record of it. So, to antiquate that to us normal humans, you got blackout drunk and there's a video of it.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say deja vu, but yeah, that's way more accurate.
I mean, that would be literally what it is. Like, oh, I have no idea what I did last night. Oh, here's a video of you acting like a jackass for 12 hours. And at which point you watch it and go, huh, okay.
Yeah, that happened.
That's a thing.
I shit in the pool?
No. Oh, I was gonna say like, oh, you got a tattoo, and it's like, oh, it was really important and impactful at the time. I got it, and then you wake up, you're like, why did I get this?
Oh, why did I eat that sea cucumber?
Oh god.
There we go, full circle. We can end the podcast.
Season 2 again. Sorry.
But I mean, it would be that kind of thing. It's like it's a thing that happened, but she doesn't remember it happening, so she doesn't have the experience gained from it happening.
That's what I was trying to say.
And also,
yeah, so we can
time travel sucks with Suko.
There is one more thing that I want to talk about.
There's a couple more I have, but go ahead.
So it's about the Time Jackers. So you have the 3 from the show, and then Tid from the Heisei Forever movie was the 4th Time Jacker. Finis in this movie is the 6th Time Jacker.
Oh god damn it.
Do you want to know who the 5th Time Jacker is?
Who?
I actually forget his name. I need to look it up real quick.
Okay, anyway, so...
It is Spade. He is from the live show.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
So his
they
plot,
sometimes do that.
His plot is that he creates a ride watch from the 90s when riders didn't exist.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
And gives it to a man to support his ambition to rule the world.
Okay, that's weird because the 90s writers don't have that kind of power. But you know what? I don't give a shit. That's cool that people remember the 90s writers exist. Fuck, that's cool. It's gonna be so weird for a stage show because the kids would have no idea who the fuck this guy is. Also, it's like, oh, here's your power. Where'd you get it? Shin? Nope, can't show that to the kids.
It's
here's
not...
Jay, what's his thing?
So those were actually in the Over Quartzer movie. No, this guy created a ride watch from the period where Rider didn't exist.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So
like the straight dead zone after.
Yes.
RX.
So like Shin is and the others from the 90s, they're spliced into one for one of the villains in Over Quartzer. Black RX is one of them because he was technically in the Heisei era, and there was one for Amazons.
Really?
Yeah. So Over Quartzer just covers the extras.
Oh, right. This the one with the yeah. It's got like manga Kuga, right?
Yes.
Or is that in one?
Yes, yeah. Manga Kuga, stage show, what is it? Melon Lord,
nice.
And Kamen Rider Brain.
Nice.
And his poison
That's
hands.
freaking great. Okay, as shit as Zio is, I'm really glad that they're covering like all the aspects of Rider, like all the offshoots. That's freaking great.
And also, it has Aruto at the end of it, and he fucks up his landing.
And No Rider is there. He's in jail.
Oh yeah, No Rider's in jail.
Or was that in the movie with Tid?
No, that's Over Quartzer.
That's Over Quartzer, yeah. No Rider is there.
Who the hell is
because
he's a guy that admires Kamen Riders, but is not a rider himself.
He's from a parody show called No Rider.
Oh wow. Holy shit, we're like referencing like all.
Yeah, he's like a father that wants to be a good role model. Or something like that.
So, is G in that movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
he does the thing to the building.
Oh that's amazing.
He's still committing property damage.
Property damage. I mean, he was a terrorist, so I'll let him. I'll let it slide. That's
Only
amazing.
only on this podcast can you let terrorism slide.
Dude, they're writers. They fucking do property damage and blow shit up on a regular basis. Like, I still can't forgive, like, they fucking drove through that helicopter. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that pilot guy was doing nothing. Edgy. What the fuck was up with that?
So I have to laugh at something.
Okay, go ahead.
So as Ryan was talking about Spade, I decided to go look him up and all that, and ended up on the category for Timejackers on the Kamen Rider fandom.
Oh no, let's go.
Where listed is powers and abilities, time manipulation, and mind control. Though Tid is the only one who does that. Arsenal and other watches, time machines, which we don't know of two specifically, and that's Captain Ghost and Castle Duran. And then their weaknesses. The weaknesses. Future Note, White was a tablet before DN took it.
Huh, nice.
And Tsukiyomi.
Tsukiyomi's his weakness?
Because she can counter their time freezing ability.
She can counter, time
Alpina, because her name is actually Alpina.
Alpina, yeah.
Being the true heir to the Timejacker dynasty, has the greatest control over time powers.
Oh, I don't know about that. But yeah, she's pretty fucking strong.
Unless
it's like little Alpina.
The reason why Schwartz tried to get rid of her is because she was going to be stronger than he was. And he's like, can't have that. Let me just drop you in this random war zone. Yeah, that sounds safe.
Oh shit, you showed up anyways, let me kill you. Oh wait, somehow you got revived because time is a thing.
Oh god, yeah. Like, Schwartz, for as overpowered as he is, like, it seems like he doesn't know what the fuck his powers do. Because, like, I'm like, dude, why do you keep setting up situations where, like, time reverts and these people come back to life? Like, what the hell?
My ultimate problem so far with every Timejacker is, for the most part, all their plans have been exactly the same.
I mean, to be fair, okay, here's the thing. Yeah, but to be fair, Timejacker is like, okay, what's their plan? Take Zio's power. Why? Zio's the strongest. He has everybody's power. If you don't take his power, he's going to come to stop you. So you might as well just take his power before he knows you're there. Two, it's like, how are their powers activated? They're sort of like greed. Like, for greed to work, their thing is they have to infect a human to create a yummy which powers up. Like, it's a specific power set. Timejackers is you have to give a watch to make a false king type thing, right? That's just their power. Well, I mean, they don't have to make the false king, but like the ride watches are their power, or it's entangled with their thing. So it's like, yeah, their plots are kind of similar. It's because their powers are so tied to this timey-wimey nonsense.
So real quick, I'm going to give you the last 4 villains we've had for Zio. Schwartz.
Look, I'm not saying they're not.
Well, no,
good or anything.
Just to explain my point, we have Schwartz, Tid, Kortzer, and Finis. All 4 of their plans. I'm going to take Sugo's power. I'm going to be reset time, and I'm going to become king. That is literally all 3 of them. The reasons for each one are slightly different.
Yeah,
just slightly. Like, Kortcher's was the most different because Kortcher's was the Heisei timeline is a mess. Fuck all this shit. We're resetting it. That was Kortcher's plan.
And White Waz is not a Timejacker, but I consider him an honorary member because his role in Gay's Majesty is a Timejacker plotline. He becomes another D-End and wants to steal the Gay Survive powers to become the savior himself.
This is fucking awful.
5 villains with the exact same plan. So Waz is just uses gates instead of Sugo.
The problem is, like, what else are you gonna do? Like, okay, the other thing is kill Zio straight up, or what? Like, try to take over the world. Zio's gonna show up anyway.
Right, but like, I will give other series credit when they did villains in each show. The villains felt different enough, and the plans felt different enough.
Yeah, the difference was, like, the other villains weren't trying to take over the world. So they didn't have to rely on, oh shit, give it 2 minutes and Zio's gonna show up, right? Like the problem with the Time Jackers is they all want to fucking rule the world, basically. And
right.
so the thing is, like, it doesn't matter what you do, like, you're gonna have a bunch of riders showing up, therefore you have to steal their powers.
So I'm gonna go.
Pixie says,
I'm gonna,
hey, X8's two villains with the same plan. I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Like father, like son.
that that shit was crazy genetics. They both had the crazy gene.
Over and over. Hell, you're.
but-
Oh man, it's lucky, Pixie, you didn't see the fucking goddamn timeline, or not timeline, like the era where we had the versus movies, like the Tyson movies,
Oh, the wars.
because that was the worst plot
We're
line.
getting
That
there.
shit over and over of like, it's literally, hey, what's your thing? Make them all fight to steal their powers to take over the world. Every movie. There's 3 movies and like other crossovers, and they're all the same bullshit.
Right.
Oh, also the heroes are pretending to fight each other so they can trick the villains, because then they're gonna unite and take out the villains. It's like, god damn it. Literally, there's like literally like 5 or 6 movies with the exact same plot, like year after year.
Decade and Gokaiger.
Right, I know. Like Decade,
That-
Gokaiger,
that was the best one, though.
the 3 Tyson movies, Showa versus Heisei. Like, Jesus Christ, it was fucking terrible.
But
Like,
we've had,
that was the era where like nothing in the summer movies mattered.
so take the villains for Deno. You had Kai, who wanted to take over the world with Imogens. For whatever reason, I'm still getting to that point. All I'm at the point of is I don't know what face I'm making, and fuck Sakurai, because I'm currently rewatching that with Pixie. Then you have the one who stole the train to go steal another train so he could take over the world.
And when that failed,
Oh, that's-
he tried to
that alone
kill
is-
Deno as a baby on the day of his birth.
So that's
Jesus.
so far.
Well, I
that's
mean,
two
effective
villains-
but harsh.
So that's 2 villains with 2 entirely different plans, and then you have the one from the crossover movie where his entire plan was, yeah, no, we're gonna go kill the first Kamen Riders.
Everyone
'Cause
cool
fuck
with
all
that?
this shit.
No,
Fuck all this
you.
shit. We're just ending this now.
But that was a show that had multiple villains throughout their movies and the show, and
Yeah.
all of them had different plans. So that's where my point is. Like, we don't need 5 villains doing the exact same fucking thing.
I know what you mean. My counter argument to that is the zero, not zero. The Zio villains are so badly done that their only motivation is take over the Earth. And so the problem is like, what else are you gonna do, right? Which sucks. Whereas like every other show's villains are like, no, I want this power for this thing or that thing, or like, I want to bring people back, or I want this power for this, or I want to take over Japan, or I just want to kick your ass, like, or I'm just the strongest, or I want my fucking power set back, or there's like other things, but like the Time Jackers have nothing.
Right. Like, and to me, that what makes them some of the worst villains in writer history. Is like their plan is.
I mean,
literally
to be fair, like Tig
Okay.
and who's the one in this?
Finis.
Finis.
Pixie
Yeah,
said-
Tig and Finis are pretty great because they're just there to do their own thing, but like all the other Time Jackers, not so much.
So Pixie says, "Power Rangers, boom." In reference to all the villains
to
having
take over the
exact
Earth?
same-
Yeah.
all the villains had the exact same plan. Meh, yeah, I kind of got it.
I
Well,
mean,
I was gonna say more like Power Rangers. They want to take over the Earth, but like each villain group has a different plan.
I was going
I'm
to
like,
say.
that works because they're fighting a single team, not the entirety of riders.
I was going
Right?
to say they
Right.
all want to take over the Earth, and also they're all aliens.
Yeah, I mean the other thing too is like the movies are different because like imagine Zio shows up and then X8 shows up and Zero One shows up, like they're entirely different power sets, and it's like, how do you even beat that? Whereas like a Sentai team is like, okay, they're 5 people but they have the same powers, so
Yeah,
you can get around that.
oh shit! Now there's 30 of them, and they have three different giant mechs. Okay, we know what to do with this. The same thing we've been doing with these guys.
Right. Whereas like Riders is like like okay, basically end of Zio, right? Like how do you fight that? Right? Like it's
XA.
literally like you cannot hide anywhere. Literally all the monsters will get to you one way or the other. Right? Like how do you fight like fucking werewolves, vampires, goddamn ghosts,
And
armies, undead, like fucking
and you
digital
find
monsters?
another human survivor and you team up with them to try and escape and they turn out to be a worm.
Right. Or yeah, right, super speed or shit, you can't even fucking and you can't even fall to despair for 1 second because then you'll turn into a monster from the inside. Right? And like
I
if
think
you
that I got that.
survive like a monster attack, what if they come in and fucking hit your heart and you turn into an orphanage? Right? Like, oh shit. What if you decide, okay, fuck this, I'm just gonna side with the villains and maybe I survive. What if they stick a coin in you and you turn into a greed? Right? And so now there's like you're creating like 50 different
And
monsters.
you've had the Bugster virus the entire time.
Exactly. Like tech fails you. You can't do anything. Um, and basically, like, right, there's so many mimics. You can't go anywhere with any mirrors or reflecting stuff because the fucking mirror monsters will kill you. Right? Like here that's the villains, but here's the thing, riders have the same powers as the villains. Therefore, like now imagine fighting that and you're the enemy faction because all the riders have those same powers, right? Like it's insanity. Like that's why they have to limit. That's one of the good things about this movie. It's like, oh, it's just Zero and Zero One, but I'm like, there's like 4 riders from Zero, 3 riders from Zero One. Like that's a fucking busted ass team as it is, right there, right? Like that's without any of the other riders. So I'm like, yeah, Sentai I can kind of let pass because I'm like, right, they're strong, but the thing is, they have mechs, which help them. But it also limits their fighting thing because if you can disable the mechs, generally Sentai teams like they're not as versatile. And even if you like stack up like, okay, here's all the powers of the Sentai team, like so what? They usually don't work 100% together. Whereas writers are like, hey, we're individual people. So like they always de facto start working together because like what else are they gonna do? Right? They don't have a
Just,
team to fall back on usually.
just don't team up Sentai with Rider, because then you end up with a giant car attached to the front end of a mech.
Oh god. I mean, the unless you have like a cool moment where you ride or kick around Saturn to land your hit. Um, but that's like a one-time thing with Forza. But like we're way the fuck off topic now.
Right. Like my biggest issue with Zio isn't so much the fact of, oh, it's like all this stuff. Like I understand why everything is as limited as it is. It's the fact of, here's a series where we have the same point over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I
Whereas
agree.
the majority of the writer series, the movies, the motivations for the villains are different, or they're
Or
doing a
they're
different
different enough.
plan. They're different enough to where it doesn't feel like, oh my god, I've just watched this same thing, this same plan.
Yeah.
I know how it's gonna end because it's the exact same plan. You did nothing different. You
Well, I
just went.
mean, except for that era where Shocker used to show up like every other movie, and or not every other movie, literally every movie, and
Yeah.
that tended to be the same shit.
I'm so glad that Shocker didn't show up in this movie, because this would have been a good one for them too. Because it
I
literally,
mean,
the whole point of this was to put Shocker back in power, essentially.
yeah, essentially, if like writers were villains to begin
So
with,
they
yeah, pretty much.
literally could have had Shocker running around this entire movie.
They
I'm
could, but
glad
thank
they
God
did.
they didn't because I'm like, honestly, fuck it. Like, Reiwa doesn't need Shocker. Like, if they
I don't
want to
need.
make their own whole team, cool. I'm fine with that. If they want their own like Foundation X or something, sure.
I'm glad, because it is
Classic
2020.
Shocker, I don't need in this.
It is 2020. We no longer need to see masked luchadors running around screeching, making Nazi salutes.
Why not?
I mean, we don't, but you know, at this point, it's fucking 2020. It might have happened in the real world. Like this year has been fucking terrible.
Like,
Oh.
but
The
in
right?
terms of
Okay, wait. Year Shocker already happened. What was that like last year or a year before that?
I
When
don't know.
Toei was pushing that shit, you know, the year Luigi crap. There was like a year Shocker. Yeah. So luckily that wasn't this goddamn year. But you know, at this point, fucking why not, right? Like literal actual Shocker could show up, and I'm not even fucking surprised at this point. The problem is there's no writers in this world. I don't hate Luigi. Okay, Luigi's great. I meant just the year of Luigi that Nintendo was doing was kind of shit, but because I actually like Luigi. But as for this movie, yeah, the Time Jackers. The problem is they don't really have personality,
right,
and so
like,
they don't have any other ambitions.
right. It's
That's
like
the
in
biggest problem.
this movie, this being the best Zio movie, the Zio portion is literally just a MacGuffin to let the rest of the movie happen.
Yeah, that's true.
It's one of those they went, we have a movie we make. We need to somehow get them into the past. We can put Zio in it.
Okay, so I like to point out
She
that
said she'd be
Pixie,
happy never to see Shocker again.
yeah,
I'm
Pixie,
like, yeah,
who's only
everyone-
seen like 2 or 3 Rider series, never wants to see Shocker again.
And so far has
I know.
only
To be
seen
fair-
Shocker. She has only seen Shocker in the Drive movies.
Oh my god, that's not even that bad. They're actually okay in that movie.
But the Drive movie really pushed it though, because it was just back to back.
Yeah, the whole gimmick is Shocker 1. Right?
The Sango movie, and then the Yongo movie.
Back to
The
back.
Yango movie is
together.
super interesting, but you have to know a
It's
lot more Rider to know.
Really good. It has it. She does admit it has a lot of potential,
Yeah.
but that movie pushed it with the nonsense.
Oh yeah, the nonsense is fucking high, but like the character stuff in that movie is super interesting.
But
If you watch some of Kuga, Kuga doesn't have any Shocker. But the thing with the Shocker is like as long as Toei thinks they can make a profit, they'll bring them back. But the way like Reiwa is turning out, like honestly, I don't think they need the nostalgia factor of Reiwa because like they've stopped pulling Showa stuff. Like they haven't pulled in Showa writers for a bit, and they're probably gonna stop pulling in Heisei writers, which is kind of sad. But I'm like, it's the new era; they have to move on for a bit.
I will say, like with this movie, along with the shows, like it does feel, while this movie does pay a lot of good homage to, you know, the origins of Kamen Rider and all that, it does enough to do that. Okay, we love this. This was fantastic, and where we came from, we're gonna.
It's time to move on.
Yeah, and I'm all for that because, and Zio has done a lot of things differently.
01.
Zero One. Yeah, it has done a lot of things differently. You know, they haven't killed off a female character yet. They did make her, you know, the evil guy's little bitch for way too long, but she got to punch him in the mouth. That was great. But they've done a fair bit to make it different, and what this movie does with what the show itself has done just adds onto it, and it does make it feel like it would be a really good fit if you ignore the Zio nonsense.
So
It's just don't focus on the time travel shit
Yeah,
because
time
like
travel is
everything
bullshit.
else they're doing is fine. It's just standard writer stuff.
so
Honestly, like this. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, like, speaking of moving on, Toei has trademarked the next Rider series.
Oh, breaking news.
I swear to God.
Well, this happened a little bit
it-
ago,
it-
but this seems like an appropriate time to mention it.
Yeah,
I
go
will
ahead.
say before we get into the reveal of the name of it, I swear to God, if anybody gets called Joker during this entire show, I'm gonna throw a shit fit.
I mean, okay, unless like fucking Blade characters are showing up, like why? No, well then
Kamen
again,
Rider
Double.
Saber.
No. Double also has Kamen Rider Joker already.
Oh, it's a joke. I don't want somebody running around with a sword and using the word Joker. I don't want somebody classified as Joker.
Is this a
I mean,
Persona
to be
5
fair,
thing?
yeah,
No, I'm
no,
referring to Blade.
yeah.
Oh.
But my counter
jeez.
argument to that is Double already has Kamen Rider Joker, so it's unlikely.
Okay. So
How'd you miss that, right?
I don't
No,
know.
I was.
You're the reason I watched Blade.
I don't associate them as jokers, okay? I associate them as undead.
But they're literally classified as the
Yeah,
Joker.
no, but
undead.
that's
Okay, he's
that.
called Chalice, right? Like most of the show is called Chalice, and then the other one's called something else. Oh, fuck it.
So-
Everybody knows who the other one is at this point.
Anyways, so the reason why Vash is saying that is because the second rider of the Reiwa era is going to be Kamen Rider Saber.
Oh, nice. So Blade jokes.
Yes.
In
Yes.
context, it makes sense now.
So what? Okay, I mean, you can either make Blade jokes or Fate Stay Night jokes.
And I don't know anything of Fate Stay Night, so
No,
Blade
the
jokes
second
it
year
is.
is going to be Archer then.
I don't know.
Fuck it.
So, who do you think's going to eat a puzzle piece in that show?
The main character, if we're going by Fate Stay Night rules.
Kamen Rider Spear.
Oh Jesus Christ! They have a fucking Lancer. He's gonna die so
I made
hard.
that up. I made that up.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay,
I kind of want that to now be the secondary writer.
the Banana Lord. We
Just
already
don't put
have
a
that.
banana on his head.
Lancer would have been a better name for it. Kamen Rider
Dude,
Lancer.
it so would have been.
I'd root for him.
Or just call him. Yeah, whatever. At least he's not Kamen Rider Shield. Kamen Rider is actually one of those fucking franchises where having shield powers would work.
Secondary
Ryuki.
rider. Hold on. We have Kamen Rider Saber, and then we can have Kamen Rider Buckler, and we can basically turn them into Pokemon.
Oh, I was gonna say, we're
Sword Shield.
making them pirates.
No, I went the
Because-
Sword and Shield thing. I went the Pokemon route, Sword and Shield.
No, I know, but a buckler is like a small shield, and basically
Yes.
the whole reason they call it like swashbucklers is because they used to walk around with like swords and their buckler, and they used to clash. So like if you hear one of these punk asses just walking around,
But I don't think there could be another badass pirate who could match Marvelous.
not in Rider though. There's no pirates in Rider.
Oh, right, I
Not
understand that, but
yet.
unless they bring Marvelous to be that rider, I'm not gonna. I don't think I'll like the
I
pirate.
don't know about that, man. We've had like similar, like Sentai gets Rider powers. Why can't we get Sentai themes? As for like topping Marvels, I don't know. Didn't we have a Sentai person in this movie?
Did we?
Yes, we did.
You
Yes,
guys wanna
yes,
talk
we
about
did.
that?
So it was a brief cameo by Toku Rokugo.
Oh.
Oh
didn't
shit,
even
Akira.
notice.
He was the teacher
Oh.
that choked
Yeah.
out Sogo.
Yeah, Akira's there. So I'm like, is that Akira or is that
I didn't even recognize
Ho-Ho
him.
Soldier? But I'm
No,
like,
it
yeah,
was-
it's fucking.
Yeah, I
Akira.
would have recognized him if it was
He
Ho-Ho
even-
Soldier.
My favorite thing is he even did that.
He
'Cause
did
as soon as
that,
I,
and
like-
I didn't even.
Oh yeah, he does.
Wow, it
'Cause
went
they're like,
right over my head.
What's a human gear? And he's human. Cause so I watched this movie well before Rye did, and I talked to him a little bit about it. I'm like, best thing in this movie in terms of the Zio part is watching Tokyo 6 choke the fuck out of Sogo.
Yeah, that school scene was fucking brutal, man. Like that actually looks like an assault. For once, like damn, the action in this movie is amazing.
Well, at least now those three know what Fua felt, in that
Like,
fake,
okay,
in those
to be
fake
fair-
memories he had.
yeah, the fake. But um, do you want to talk about the name for the new writer, or come back around to some more things about this movie?
I mean, I'm pretty much said everything I want to about this movie, so I'm ready to wrap this
Pretty
up soon.
same here.
Yeah, I was just gonna come back to like the resistance and stuff. Like two things. One is like they're like almost beat, and then they decide to fucking assault the main base where all the human gear are, and they're like, ah, fuck it, we can't win by playing defense. I'm like, there's no chance you would be winning this,
It's
but
that
they
whole
because like
last ditch effort.
last ditch effort, and then I'm like, okay, these are the survivors. So like these are the best of the best at this point. So I'm like, all right, they're probably gonna have a better chance than most people.
But also,
And to be
like,
fair, they also did have a lot of writers helping them.
sitting down,
Yeah,
hiding wasn't working. Like, they were just getting whittled away. They were going to go extinct like that. They needed to take action.
So it was either fight or die.
yeah, I guess the good point. Their supplies were pretty much done anyway, right? Um, and the other thing too is when they cut to the resistance, like there's so many different people. Like normally when you do like Paradise Lost, right? They're just a bunch of relatively young-ish adults who are hold off, which is like the typical generic, like, oh, these are the survivors of humanity, right? It's like, oh yeah, the people who are like in decent shape and like kind of in their prime survive. But in this movie, it's like, no, this is the reality of who survived. It's like this huge swath of people, right? You see like old people, young people, kids, like fucking Japanese people, foreigners, right? Like trans people. Okay, I don't know what's going on there. Trans.
Trans, cross dress, or something. It
Yeah,
was
like I'm
one of the
gonna say like
alternatives.
okay, it's either trans or like a drag queen, but I'm like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. It's like trans, cool representation. People with like different colored hair and shit. I'm like, wow, Japan, you actually gave a shit. That's like, yeah, not just the generic. Oh, these are the most Japanese, therefore they live type of shit. It's like, no, it's just everybody who fucking fought and just got somehow lucky enough to survive,
Like
right? And then it's not that they just died. It's like, no, they're fucking actually holding off in a fight. Like it's pretty fucking close. They're like barely holding on. But like, yeah, they actually managed to do a decent job in like the base assault, especially to survive. I was like, damn, that was fucking awesome. Also, UI is like the most badass person in that base, right? Like
so
Fu is kind of still a little bit of a hardhead, but like he's still pretty strong because like I mean he was the leader of the fucking police squad anyway, right? Like Ames because he was pretty good at fighting. But then you
when
were like super fucking top notch in this.
when I watched this, we were still in the middle of her being the little mousy character that she was in Zio
Oh
at that
yeah,
or Zero One at that point. So to go back and watch this, I was like, oh god, I forgot what a badass Yua was.
yeah. Like she's
I was
like
I'm not used to this anymore.
yeah, she's like way more badass. I mean, like she's even more badass than she is in the show. But like, damn, she's good in this. I also like how there's like assist, like the characters who are assisting them. They all look distinct. Because for a second, like there was the time jacker person, and I was like, okay, is that like they have white hair or like a white aesthetic going on? Because there's a person who's helping Yua. It's got like an eye patch thing going on, like white hair. I'm like, oh, is that them? And they're just in disguise. That didn't turn out to be the case, but I'm like, damn, that's actually kind of interesting. That you just had like all the resistance people look distinct, right?
Like, because yeah, usually they just look, borderline.
Generic soldiers because they have to
Yeah,
pad out the grunt numbers.
but like even during the major fight scene when they're being raided at the beginning of the movie is like every shot looks like you can feel like it's somebody else and not just like the same five people being saved in the scenes and whatnot. It's like they did a very good job.
Yeah.
Like
Also, like for the CGI and stuff, like yeah, you can kind of still feel like, oh, that's a little cheap. but that's only when they have to render like large crowds. But for the rest of it, they actually did a really good job.
So
Also, like the suits in this fucking movie are so damn good.
I
Yes.
don't know how well the CGs and stuff translated for like the lower resolutions and all that, but I watched the 1080p and there's a lot of it that's very obvious. Even stuff that shouldn't
Oh,
be as obvious as it is. Like
Uh,
there's a
I
point
just
where
watched
they're
the standard version. It's not that noticeable in the standard
like
version.
in the 1080 when they're standing there in front of the satellite, while it's still underground
Oh,
and
I
all
mean,
that.
yeah, it's stuff like that because I'm like,
But
of
I mean, like
course.
you can see points where the where they're doing the whole chroma key thing, and that you
Uh,
shouldn't be able to see.
I didn't
Like
okay,
very
yeah.
notice
So
anything
definitive.
like
so
that in the standard version.
yeah, the standard version you don't see any of that. Like you can
But
tell, like okay, they're standing in front of a CGI rocket. Yeah,
right, like
like
there's
that
stuff
crowd
that's
is mostly CGI, sure, but like
like
yeah, there's no chroma key issues in the standard version that I saw.
which is fantastic. Like this is one of those things where I feel watching a higher resolution stuff, especially with HD and stuff like that, you tend to see more of those type of errors, which can you can either ignore it, which is what I did, but that one particular stuck out because I'm like, I shouldn't be able to see that, but I can. Like, because that in that version it was how much, but aside from that, like the stuff they did for the effects and the CGs, like they did a fantastic job with it. Like,
Yeah,
there's a few points where you're like, y'all could have done that better, i.e., when there's the massive grunts
oh, the
walking up to the
explosions.
facility, and you're like, yeah, that's all CG.
Right, like the explosion is the fucking worst because like oh shit, it's just the worst effects for that
The
explosion.
problem with I think the problem with a lot of their special effects is the fact that they'll use practical explosions as well.
Right, and like the practical explosions look way better.
Right.
Um, but that being said, like holy shit, there was that scene where like the smoke explosion happens and like they're fighting around it. Like, damn, they're getting so fucking good at using that shit. Like,
Like
it's amazing.
they've gotten really good since because I've gone back and started watching Kuga, and I've been watching since Decade, and just watching since Decade,
Oh yeah, I saw
you can
double.
see how much they've learned over the years to this point.
Right, like I just saw like Rai, I think linked like the Fang Joker scene from Double. I'm like,
Yes.
I remember that fight being awesome, but seeing it now, it's like, holy shit, they've improved so
It's
much.
it's a little dated now.
Like, and it's amazing to see how far that they've come. And it's like, and this is one of those reasons why I really hope this show never ever does go away. Beyond the fact that I think these series are freaking the best things I've ever watched. So, like, I don't ever want them to go away. It's like, but I want to see just how much better they can get
All right.
You know,
with increases in
there-
technology and all of that.
yeah, honestly, like the only limitation at this point that they have is just CGI. And the problem with CGI is like even the best CGI studios in the world can't produce as good as a CGI as they want is because now the problem is they don't have enough time. So the whole thing of like people complaining is like, oh shit, Jurassic Park looks fucking amazing for when it came out. I'm like, okay, one, like most of that movie is practical effects, except for like certain far away scenes where they're using CGI. Two, most movies now don't do that. And three is like, yeah, they could do much better, but like the studios just don't have enough fucking time because like they have to work on so many projects, and so it's like, hey, if we got like 3 more months, this would look like 10 times better, but we don't. Not that kind of time, right? So every time people complain, it's like, practical is so much better. I'm like, yeah, kind of, but like one, we've kind of lost those people, like they've retired, and two is like CGI is pretty damn good now. It's just the studios just don't have the fucking time to render their shit.
It's like, and then we have like just with like this stuff is like knowing the film schedule versus the release schedule and knowing
Yeah.
how close those are.
Well, plus
The fact
Toei
that
like
it is
doesn't fund their shit as much as
right,
you think they would.
but just going off that, knowing okay, they just got released for filming. They're now putting an episode out like a month and a half later, knowing that that's the amount of time for the effects in the show, and the effects have gotten this good, since just 5 or 6 years ago versus now is like how much they've improved. It shows that the skill that that Toei and the production companies that they're using to do all this stuff have gotten better and better at doing what they're doing in that amount of time, and it's fantastic.
To be fair, it's just like generally the tech has gotten so much better, like the software that like we can almost like the indie tokusatsu guys can almost do Toei level stuff, and Toei level stuff is like decent Hollywood level. So it's just like generally the level of like technical ability that like is available to everyday people has gotten so much higher. That being said, like yeah, Toei is like the turnaround is amazing for how much like shit that they have to pump out and how quickly they can do it. Um, Especially because you have to remember, like yeah, like this is the CGI effects for the scenes that have to be shot multiple scenes, then edited down, then the best of that has to get fucking effects put on it, and then you have to release it, right? So it's like the amount of stuff you have to do is insane. Plus, like their budgets are nowhere near like Hollywood budgets or anything like fucking modern day TV in the West. So even that is kind of amazing. But yeah, again, this movie was great. Like honestly, it's super good. Um, like if you had to watch a Zio movie, I would say this would be it.
I can agree with that. Like, this is Zio at its absolute best.
Yeah.
Right. Keyword there, Zio, not Decade Season 2.
Yeah, it's true.
So
this is Zio on his own, standing on his own, and it's the best that it's been.
So
I was gonna say, like, any thoughts on the suits? Because there's a couple new suits in this. Like because
no.
the interesting thing is like Zero One gets like a new suit because, well, he can't use his normal driver because one, it gets taken away, and two, it needs the satellite which hasn't launched yet. Right, so he has to use a more
the Force Riser suit, which is the villain's engine device.
Right, and like I really like that suit too because it's more armored, and like it's kind of a mix between like Zio and Zero One suits. Like it's a really fucking nice ass suit. Plus, his dad's rider suit is super fucking nice too.
Honestly, I'd have preferred to see Ichigata be, the next rider form we get in the show.
Oh,
I like it a lot better than what's coming.
Yeah, but to be fair, this is a movie, so usually the movie suits tend to be nicer because you actually throw money at that.
It's like this is just one of those suits that looks really, really clean.
Oh yeah, it does.
Like nothing on that suit feels out of place in any way.
Yeah, especially considering how many like how many angles and like gaps and stuff it has on it. Like they did such a nice job balancing it.
Yeah, the Ichigata suit does look good, and it's neat seeing like a suit once like key used in a different driver so that you get a different form out of it, like the different style.
Right.
The only other one you get that with is Flying Falcon.
Right. But to be fair, we only get Flying Falcon used as a upgrade, not a base. So we don't know what that would look like if you use it as a base. But yeah, it is still a drastic difference, and I like them.
But I gotta get going now, so I want to wrap this up.
Yeah,
right,
I was
sorry we drug that out.
So thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday for Kira Major, and Wednesday for more Kamen Rider Zero One.
010101.
And look forward to our final podcast on Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Before we go, like, Zero One has been putting out episodes, but they've mostly been clip shows, and the clip shows have basically one thing that's new, which is there's an evil Izu, and the evil Izu is just trying to get enough data to basically create the next villain rider, and that's just gonna show up in the next episode anyway. So it's like, if you want to watch them, you can, but they're not really that important. But yeah, this movie is really solid. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Or for listening, we'll see you for the next movie, which, from the looks of it, will be the next CO movie. God damn it. We'll see you